The text message glowed, an unwelcome beacon in the darkness. Words, stark and cold, cut through me like shards of glass. Can't do this anymore. I'm in love with someone else. My world imploded. My fiancé, my soulmate, the man I trusted more than anyone, had betrayed me. The man I had poured my heart and soul into, gone, just like that. A text message. Cold, calculated, cowardly. My mind spiraled, desperately seeking answers that weren't there. How? Why? The questions echoed in the hollow chambers of my broken heart. Betrayal is a cruel beast. It sinks its teeth into your soul, tearing away at the very fabric of your being. I was lost in a sea of pain, adrift in a storm of emotions I couldn't control. Anger, hot and fierce, surged through me. How dare he? How dare he discard me like a piece of trash after all we had shared, all the promises we had made? The pain was unbearable, a physical weight crushing me from the inside out. The world continued as if nothing had changed, the sun still daring to rise, the birds still singing their cheerful song. But my world had stopped. The life I envisioned, the future I craved, had vanished in a puff of smoke. Days bled into weeks, each one a painful reminder of my loss. The life we had built together mocked me at every turn. His favorite coffee mug, the pictures on the wall, the lingering scent of his cologne, constant reminders of what was and would never be again. Sleep offered no escape, only haunted by nightmares of his betrayal. Food lost its flavor, a chore to consume rather than a source of nourishment. My once vibrant spirit was now shrouded in a thick fog of grief and despair. Friends and family rallied around me, offering words of comfort and support, but their words seemed distant, muffled by the overwhelming roar of my pain. How could they possibly understand the depth of my suffering? They hadn't lived through this agonizing betrayal. As the initial shock began to subside, a new emotion flickered within me: revenge. The thought at first frightened me. Was I capable of such darkness? But the more I dwelled on the injustice, the more appealing the idea became. This wasn't about stooping to his level, I reasoned. This was about justice, about reclaiming my power. He needed to understand the depth of his transgression, to feel the same pain he had inflicted upon me. An idea began to take shape, a plan so cunning, so unexpected it would leave him reeling. I wouldn't resort to anger or pettiness. No, this revenge would be served cold, calculated, and utterly devastating. Section 5. Operation Reclamation. My revenge wouldn't be about causing him pain, but about reclaiming what he had taken from me. My joy, my confidence, my future. I threw myself into my work, pouring all my energy into projects that challenged and inspired me. I reconnected with old friends, the laughter and shared memories a balm to my wounded soul. I took up new hobbies, each one a small victory, a testament to my resilience. I was rebuilding my life, brick by painful brick. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the fog began to lift. The world regained its color, the sun its warmth. The pain was still there, a dull ache in the background, but it no longer consumed me. Months later, my ex-fiancé reached out. He had heard through the grapevine about my success, about the vibrant, thriving life I had built. His messages were full of regret, of apologies that rang hollow in my ears. He wanted to see me, he pleaded, to explain himself, to beg for another chance. I agreed to meet, not because I held any hope of reconciliation, but because I knew the time for the final act of my revenge had arrived. I arrived at the cafe, a serene smile on my face and a newfound confidence in my stride. He looked disheveled, a shadow of the man I once knew. The sight brought me no joy, only a quiet sense of satisfaction. He launched into a well-rehearsed apology, filled with remorse and promises of change. I listened patiently, my heart strangely unmoved by his pleas. When he was finished, I finally spoke, my voice calm and steady. "I appreciate your apology," I said, "but it's too late for apologies. You see, I've moved on. I've built a life more fulfilling, more joyful than I ever imagined possible, and you're not a part of it." His face crumpled. He had expected anger, tears, maybe even a desperate plea for him to come back. He hadn't expected this, my quiet strength, my indifference. This was the revenge I'd carefully crafted. I left him sitting there, his words of regret echoing in the empty space between us. I didn't look back. He was no longer a part of my story. He was a chapter I had closed, the ink dried, the page turned. My revenge wasn't about hurting him, but about healing myself. It was about taking back my power, my happiness, my future. And in doing so, I had found something far greater than the satisfaction of revenge. I had found myself. The experience left me forever changed but not broken. I learned that the greatest revenge is a life well lived, a life filled with joy, purpose, and love. A life where betrayal no longer had the power to define me. We can't control the actions of others. People will hurt us, betray us, disappoint us. But we can control our reactions. We can choose to let their actions define us, or we can choose to rise above. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't about him. It was about me, about releasing the anger and pain that were holding me captive. Forgiving him wasn't easy, but it was necessary for my own peace of mind. Betrayal is a painful lesson, but it doesn't have to be a life sentence. It can be a catalyst for growth, for self-discovery, for building a life stronger and more beautiful than we could have ever imagined.